This week on the OneCast, we're joined by Director of Sales of Missile Baits, Byron Childers. We're going to talk a little bit about how he got in the industry, some missile baits, and he is the guru of throwing big baits. We're going to get into some of that on the OneCast.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Oh, God, it's a toad, son. It's a toad, dude.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's going to be a bad day.
What is going on, OneCast fans? We're back for another episode 22, 23, something like that.
I don't know, 500.
Yeah. As you see, it's just Trey and I this week. We brought you one a few weeks ago with just Ben and I when Trey was out. And Ben is on vacation, visiting his family in Missouri, doing a little fishing out there. So not to offend anybody that's listening from Missouri. It's a great state. So he's doing a little fishing over there. And
yeah, but it has been miserable. The fishing, he said, has not been great.
Yeah,
so
yeah, he hasn't had a great time. So as always, we'll plug our sponsor, OneCast Fishing. Head over to OneCastFishing.com. Use the code TheOneCast, all one word at checkout to save 15%. Check out their snagless jigs, long neck hooks, weedless neds, and get you some of those. I've been catching some giants. So
for those of you who can see us, speaking of the OneCast, if you look right above between Pete and I, we got an awesome piece of art that was painted by my boy Seth. Huge shout out to him. And if you guys get an opportunity to check out some of his fine art, Seth Hartman is his name. You can find him on Instagram and stuff like that. So thank you, Seth, for hooking us up with some cool swag inside the very awesome studio that we have going on here. And we're constantly trying to make changes and change the ergonomics in the room for everybody. So, shoot us a comment and let us know what you'd like to see.
Yeah. So just real quick in the news, two major tournaments have ended since our last episode. Lay Lake Elite Series, Will Davis Jr.
local
beating Brandon Polunick by 2 ounces.
Yeah.
BP actually had it won, but had a dead fish. I'm waiting for his video to drop because it sounds like it had something to do with a partition in his live well and a call tag. I don't know what exactly happened, but that's what was talked about on Mercer's podcast. Don't know if the fish got caught and got in a weird position or what exactly happened. So be interested to see his video.
Actually, he had 2. Local boy went in, but Polinick is back to back for second in 2 events. One being the Lay Lake and one being the Open that they just had. So 2 second place finishes, not too shabby of a payday for him.
Yeah.
And you know how those largemouth get inside the live well with call tags. I mean, sometimes depending on the system you're running or the boat you have, like sometimes they get in a funky way. I almost think call tags, they scare me sometimes. I feel like they kill fish. I don't know, but I don't know.
I don't have any issues with them if you put them on. I mean, yeah, they can die just as easy without them.
That's true. That's true.
The other event was Bass Pro Tour, Gunnersville, Alabama. That's right. Jacob Wheeler. Everybody was saying what happened to Jacob. Nothing. He's right back to where he finished last year, back on top, taking home a win there. And that was another pretty close one.
Yeah,
it was kind of interesting because you had Dudley was fishing shallow, catching them. Wheeler was fishing offshore, catching them. They're kind of back and forth. So it just goes to show you can catch fish pretty much anywhere if you're confident and know what you're doing. There's always shallow fish. There's always deep fish. So don't think you have to do what everybody else is doing. Fish your strengths. We talk about it all the time.
That's right.
But that's enough unless you got anything you want to talk about.
No, by the time y'all are hearing this, our friends at the National Professional Fishing League will be wrapped up on Santee Cooper. So we're looking forward to that. And a lot of people are getting to fish their strengths on that body of water as well. So all in all, a lot of good tournaments rolling around. And let's jump right into it.
Yep. So I'm going to bring Byron on. Byron, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Awesome. I'm going to make you big and us small.
Good luck with that.
That's right. Oh, my ego. No, I'm just kidding. Byron Childers, we gave you a quick introduction. Director of Sales with Missile Baits. Currently, you've had a long career in the fishing industry. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to our listeners?
Byron Childers, Director of Sales at Missile Baits. I've been with Missile since 2018 and been in the industry somewhere close to 20 years now. So,
always in sales?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So I was the sales manager for Gambler Lures for 14 years.
Okay.
up until 2018 when John Crews offered me a job, and I could not jump quick enough.
Gambler, you were living in? Did you live in Florida down there, local to them? They're out of Florida, correct?
Yeah. I grew up in South Florida and worked in the office there. Had a big corner office, kind of, until 2012 when I moved to Middle Tennessee and started working from home.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So where did you grow up at, like as a young kid?
So we were originally from Memphis,
Okay.
but we moved to South Florida, like Fort Lauderdale area. Gosh, I was young, like 4 or 5. So I mean, I grew up, went to school, went to high school in South Florida there. So I mean, fished the Everglades, fished Okeechobee every weekend. Canals after school type deal.
Yeah. Endless bodies of water to fish. No wonder you're in the fishing
everywhere.
industry.
Yeah. And dude, there's giant bass in like neighborhood lakes and golf courses and canals everywhere down there.
Yeah, there's also giant alligators.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Now they
you
got
get used
giant
to that.
pythons.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Python.
Yeah.
Were the peacocks starting to get caught when you were still living down there? That's a little bit further south.
No, I mean that was it. Fort Lauderdale. That line is kind of like West Palm, so we were in it. There were certain neighborhoods that I would go to that had a bunch of peacocks. So like my PB peacock at the time, of course, I kind of viewed them as trash fish because you couldn't weigh them in a tournament. Was like 6 pounds, 7 pounds, something like that.
That's pretty good.
But they're dumb. Like they're dumb. You could take a rattle trap. When they're on the bed, you could just dangle a rattle trap and they'd eat it.
Oh, really?
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah.
Man, I wish a largemouth were
Yeah, I was gonna say, but we pride ourselves on trying to figure the actual not trash bass out, the largies and the smallies, and I kind of feel like spots are kind of trashy a little bit. They eat pretty much everything,
I would disagree with that. But
our spots are different.
Okay, so our spots are not
Invasive.
supposed to be here. Your spots are probably supposed to be there, right?
Well, they call them Kentuckies around here.
Yeah.
But then you got lakes like Lanier that are magnum spot, lakes. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah, ours are not magnum spots.
Yeah, ours are
like a big one's 2.5.
Ours look like fish sticks.
And
We'll throw them on the bank.
Well, that's all good and fine until you're fishing a tournament and then you can't keep more than 5 in your live well, but North Carolina wants you, all of the invasive Alabama spotted bass, they want you to keep them. There's no creel limit or anything like that on them. And they're fun when you want to get a kid into fishing or you just want to go out there and rip some lips. But, most of the time a tournament winning bag isn't coming from invasive Alabama spotted bass.
You're not going to win a tournament with spots.
Yeah. So
here, but I'd love to get down to Lanier because they grow them mondos down there and they eat big. That's what we're going to talk about.
In
a little bit. But so how did you go to school for sales and got in with Gambler? Or did you just, how'd you get started in the industry?
And so my dad was a sales guy. My grandfather was a sales guy. So, I mean, I grew up around that. Went into Gambler when the current owner bought it. It was out of bankruptcy court. So Russ Bringer and Mike Sermon had it prior to that. And I was a little kid going in there, and spending time with those dudes. And they would, teach you all they could while they're sitting there putting Florida rig weights together and bagging worms. And so I'd become friends with them. And then when the new owner bought it, I went in there looking for jigs or something and hit him up for a job. He told me no 2 or 3 times. And then the 4th time he was like, damn, dude, you're persistent. Like, you ever sold anything? I'm like, no, but I think I can, So he hired me on like a 90-day trial period deal. And we doubled the size of the company in 90 days. So,
wow.
Yeah. From where he had it,
there's a pattern with Missiles employees. They're persistent, because when we talked to Alex, he was persistent about getting in there as an intern, even though there really
I still
wasn't
told
anything.
Alex no. I'm not fully on board with Alex being here, but
What drove you to Gambler? Was it due to proximity, or was it due to believing in the product, or kind of a combination, or how was that?
man, so in South Florida, Gambler is and was the deal.
Mhm.
Local, and everybody knows now, if you go to Florida, you kind of got to throw it, and so it was super cool to me. Like, I initially went in there looking for a job in the warehouse or sweeping the floor, or something. Anything was better as a foot in the door in the industry versus the wholesale seafood company I was working at.
Okay.
While I was going to college for a few years, So
Mhm.
Yeah. And no, go ahead. Go ahead. I was going to say, you were in college. It sounds like, did you study sales, or what was your plan in school?
So my plan in school was to set myself up for my professional fishing career, and figured the industry job could help with that. And then after a few years, well, I'll back up. So I went to community college for 2 years and figured out that I could make more money working and not have student debt.
Yep.
So I quit. And I still stand behind that decision. So to me, you can't teach somebody to sell. Now, you can mold them, but you either, you got to have it or you don't.
Right.
Fortunately, I was okay at it early on.
Yeah.
And I got to give Val Osinski with Gambler a lot of credit. Like, he molded a young, naive kid, and taught me quite a bit, on what to do, what not to do, that kind of stuff at Gambler.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's important. And we've talked about, there's so many ways to get in, and you don't necessarily need to have an education. And I think everybody's plan that you meet that's in the industry, if they didn't have some form of a fishing career, the plan always was that was what they were chasing. And you sort of figure out, like you said, you can make more money doing work and then going to school. And you kind of get in a rhythm, and and obviously it's opened up tremendous doors for you. You have a long career in the industry. Before we go into like transitioning, we'll talk some about Missile. For anybody listening or watching that might be interested in sales, obviously you don't need a degree. And I think we've talked about it before. They can teach you some stuff, but it's not the most important thing. What would you look for if you were hiring somebody to sell for you? What is those key personality traits or things like that?
I'm having flashbacks of Fishing University.
Did they just hit you with these same questions?
Oh my God, dude. They did. It was such a train wreck.
Was that when you were at the school and you weren't sure what to do with your hands?
Yeah. I'm like, drop out of college. Student debt is bad. The government's trying to kill you. I mean, it was bad. Trump.
Yeah.
No, it was. See, I've already screwed up the politic thing. No. So, my gosh. You don't have to have a college degree. I mean, anymore to me, you see a lot of these kids, they go to school, whether it be for gender studies or whatever, and they're never going to get a job doing that stuff,
Yeah.
So myself, it was, I was given an opportunity, and the guy at Gambler took a chance on me, and was able to learn, kind of trial by fire.
Mm-hmm.
But knowing how to deal with people is big. Although being a sales guy for so many years will make you not a people person.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Dealing with the public. Fortunately, in my position, I get to deal with an educated consumer, independent business owners and stuff like that. But I still enjoy the retail trade shows. It's all fun now, at this stage in the game.
Right.
That could have sounded bad, but it's not. I'll tip my hat to the Fishing University, the ability to sell. just the willingness to learn, you name it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah, I
know,
think
and not, you know, you have to get over the fear of rejection, because I mean, they're
Yeah.
going to tell you no a lot more than they tell you yes when you're starting out, especially depending on where you're working. You know, if it's a smaller regional company like Gambler, I got told no the majority of the time out of state.
Yeah.
And then being persistent, I've got numerous stories, you know, just being persistent, not giving up. You know, and they're finally like, dude, what do you want? Like, just send me, you know, whatever you want. So like at Gambler, it was kind of like a telemarketing thing, you know, which, you know, like I said, what to do, what not to do. Nobody likes a telemarketer.
Right. Oh, can you still hear us, Byron?
You there?
Yeah, we lost you there for a second.
Man, I had somebody tried to call me.
Oh, you're
Sorry
good.
about
It's probably a telemarketer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. It was probably a telemarketer.
So I'm curious. So rewind, when you walked in the door and you said, I want you to assume risk and hire me. Do you remember like what you said that triggered them to make a decision right then and there, or did they have to sleep on it, or how did that work?
So it was a unique situation. The guy that owns Gambler, Val, his background was in technology, and he owned I want to say it was like a computer liquidation company. And so he managed a team of telemarketers, and these were like ruthless, cutthroat, like Wolf of Wall Street type dudes. You know, it was all about call times and sales numbers and conversion rates and micromanaging and all that. And so after we got past, no, you can't work in the warehouse and pull orders, he's like, I need a sales guy. And being young and moldable, you know, green, I think it fit what he had been good at previously. You know, if that makes sense. So it was kind of the right place at the right time kind of deal. And that's cliche to say, but it worked.
Yeah.
So,
No, I think that's important. And you brought up a lot of good points, and we're by no means dissuading anybody from college. If that's your plan, that's your plan.
no, if you want to do that, and by all means, you know, when I was going to school, my major was business administration. And I enjoyed all the accounting classes and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, public speaking, I always struggled with that early on. Hard to believe. But you get a lot better at it as you go. And I was the type of learner, like, man, just freaking throw me to the wolves. I'll figure it out.
Yeah. Yep.
I think, and this is, you know, fast forwarding to 2023, it's a perishable skill. It's a skill that, you know, me and what I do, and being able to converse with people and have human engagement and just have a good casual conversation. Like I see it slowly diminishing over time. Like a lot of people are fantastic at writing an email, and they're really good at social media marketing. But
as long as they don't have to talk to anybody.
But and that's the thing, is like, it's really hard to find somebody who has the charisma to go in somewhere with no understanding of what the outcome is going to be and navigate through someone's mind to help them make a decision on how to get to yes, you know, and that's something that I went to college and I don't feel like I learned anything. I really don't. Like, I can't even remember anything from like, it's sad. Maybe it's too many knocks to the head, but I just don't feel like that prepares you for the environment that you're working in right now. Your profession of being a director of sales and actually having to develop relationships based on mutual trust and negotiating and all that stuff. That's hard to teach. I mean, even the FBI does negotiations, and that's only a one-way negotiation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, that's critical, man. And for modern day, do you see that in your profession where these young adults are coming and they're persistent and they're trying to get jobs, or once they hear no, they just walk away and you never see them again?
A A good mix of both. I mean, it depends a lot on where you're from, how you were raised, and all that. And what I see more of is there's more and more customers or dealers of ours that do business via email or text.
Mm-hmm.
And in my experience, a lot can be misunderstood
Mm-hmm.
with email and text. The inflection in somebody's voice says a whole lot about what they're trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
Where if you were to write that down, man, this guy's a dick, but
Yeah.
no, I was kidding, so it's and it's a lot more personal. And my brand of sales and what we believe in at Missile is it's all about relationship.
Yep.
100% about relationship. There's a lot of companies out there where you're just another number, they want to talk SKUs and margin and this. And what I love about the fishing industry and Missile in particular is that, man, we go to these shows and Pete's seen it. Like,
Oh yeah.
We hang out with our friends for a week and we have a blast, and the fishing I do and the reason why I'm so active on social media too. And, with the family and fishing and big baits and all that, like when I call somebody, it's like, bro, you whacked them this weekend. You had 35 pounds. Like, what'd you do to catch them? Oh, by the way, let me give you an order.
Mm-hmm.
It takes the awkwardness out of it and your friends, like you get to deal with your friends.
Yeah.
And fortunately I've been able to do it for 20 plus years now.
Yeah. That's important. Those relationships, like you said, are in any job. And I'm like Trey was talking about some folk, like I'm the guy that if I sent you an email, Byron, you'd think I was a dick because I am not good. I'm not good at phrasing emails. I'm very to the point with my emails, and it doesn't sound. I pretty much every time I send an email in my job, I have to send a follow up apologizing because I go back and read it, and I'm like, they probably think that's like yeah. So I always follow it up with like, I hope you didn't take this the wrong way. That's not how I meant it.
Which puts you a little behind the 8 ball if you're trying to sell that guy something. So.
Yeah. Luckily, I'm not selling anything. So
you're selling yourself.
Well, I guess.
But you're right. There's relationships that are transactional, and that's what I see a lot in the world. I'm in the military industry, so everything is very much transactional, but relationships are your best weapon system, hands down. And if you have a relationship that you don't have to worry about transaction, you can get that common ground, like talking fishing and, oh, by the way, you let's get your order put in for you, then all of that awkwardness is taken out of the situation. That's so it doesn't even seem like work to you anymore, does it?
Majority of the time, no. I mean, you still got line reviews and spreadsheets and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not, no, I mean, I love what I do. Couldn't be happier, working at Missile for John. And it's fun. I enjoy it.
So you talked about you wanting to use or get in, with Gambler to talk about your professional fishing career. Am I correct on that?
Yeah. So that was kind of tongue in cheek. So I mean, that was my goal as a young kid. Wanted to fish professionally, and when I got in the industry and got to know a lot of these pros, I kind of determined I didn't want to live paycheck to paycheck. There's a lot of those guys, there's a small handful that aren't included in this, but the majority of them need to make a check in order to get home or get to the next tournament.
Yep.
And that's, and I didn't want to sleep in my truck and, I mean, and I wanted to get married. I wanted to have a family, and it's best for a lot of these guys, it could cause divorce. They never get to see their kids. That's just not the life I wanted to live, Yeah. And so I decided against that and figured I was better at selling baits than catching fish on them anyway.
Yeah. And that's part of the thing we want to bring light to is the other ways to still be around fishing and still fish without doing it professionally because I still get to hang out with all the same guys, like all the pros, and you're backstage and you're at the Elite Series, and a lot of guys in the industry are like caddies for certain pros, and
there's all sorts of different things you could do, to be around it and still be around what you love, what you're passionate about.
Yeah, those, and like you said, there's a small portion. We talked to Destin about it. He's lucky the job he has that allows him to fish as part of his actual job. And, outside of guys that have been good at marketing themselves or building, and guys that come to mind when I talk about that are guys like Mike Iaconelli built his name and his brand. Ish Monroe has built a brand around his name and is well respected. John has built Missile and has that in the background. But there's a lot of guys that don't have that, like you said, and I know a number of them that I talked to. And it's like, if I don't cash a check this week, then I'm not going to make a truck payment.
Yeah, I'm eating ramen.
Or the mortgage is 2 months behind. I need a check this week, or they're going to take the house. Or it's a tough life. So
the turning point for me, and I won't say who it was, but they won the Classic, so that'll narrow it down. But if he hadn't won the Classic this particular year, I mean, he had a second, maybe a third mortgage on the house, and was unsure if he was going to even be able to fish the next year on tour. Mm-hmm. And then he won the Classic.
Yep.
And to me, that's playing it too close for me.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting when young people say, I want to be a professional angler. And we talked about this before, but would you submit that there's some pros, or probably quite a few pros, that's only a fraction of their profession? Like, it's a platform.
Oh, 100%.
Right?
Yeah,
like
100%.
It's a platform for me to market my actual private business I have. It's a platform for me to be a content creator. It's whatever the case may be. I'm an insurance adjuster, so I sponsor myself. Or your sponsors. Yeah. So like, there was a debate about like, what's a professional angler, and we went through the gambit of it. But a football player is just an NFL football player is just an NFL football player. And they have some charity organizations, a lot of them do. But for the most part, they just play football. They have their endorsement contracts. But professional anglers, at least in the tournament sphere of professional anglers, dude, it's like being a law enforcement officer and having to mow yards on the side because you're not getting paid enough,
Yeah. So, I mean, you can't live on tournament winnings alone. Maybe, KVD probably could,
Sure.
But it's been a while since he's cashed a check type deal.
Yeah.
And I could be wrong about that, but I don't watch MLF.
Yeah, me either.
So,
shameless stab right there.
That's all right. I take a shot every chance I get.
Well, I work for an Elite Series pro. So, here's a better way for me to put it. Ish Monroe will always have a job with Missile Baits.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what tour he's fishing. If he's fishing tournaments, because the dude can sell.
Yep.
And he knows how to move the sales needle, which is everything potential sponsors, and this goes out to you young guys looking for sponsors. It's got zero to do with what the company can do for you. It's got 100% to do with what you can do to move that company's sales needle. So whether you need to build up your social media following, or you need to catch more fish in tournaments, or become a local hammer, or get in good with all the local independent dealers and be an asset, to any tackle company, whether it be Missile or Cash In or whoever, make yourself irreplaceable with your relationships, or your ability to catch fish, or your ability to sell. And ultimately, all of that boils down to moving the sales needle.
Yep.
Yeah, you nailed it. When we had an entire episode where we talked about pro staff and ambassadors and paid staff and all that. And at the end of the day, that was exactly the point we tried to make. And we'll bring it up again we look at our statistics. We have a lot of younger listeners. You got to be able to provide something to the company. Sending them a message on Instagram or emailing Byron because you find his email somewhere and saying, send me some free baits and I'll make a post. That's not how you get in with a company.
No.
You need to make yourself marketable. You need to be able to sell. You don't even need to go out there and be a local hammer. If you can fish and provide decent content and you have relationships with local shops or local people that are going to order and buy, you can make yourself valuable without having to go out there and catch 30 pounds every week.
I think a lot of these, even older crowds, like I know there's a lot of guys that I fish with or that are still on active duty military that just will, at their younger age, they were in the Army or they were in the military and they can't fish professionally, but they're like, man, I want to give it a shot when I get out. But my advice to them is like, if you're going to ask a company for support, you're almost applying for a job at that company. Like, go in the mindset like, hey, I need to put a resume together. I need to have a good portfolio. I'm going to apply for a job. And a lot of these guys they're going to get jobs where that maybe a few years down the road, they can look to their CEO or their different business partners and say, hey, I want you to assume some risk on me and sponsor me through this deal to help market and sell your product. Right. And I like Destin has an awesome job.
Yep.
Right. He works for DuraEdge, correct?
Yep.
But he uses professional angling as a platform to push DuraEdge.
Yeah, he's a marketing. I don't know if he's the marketing director, but his job is marketing. So
yeah,
his marketing is fishing when he was on the Elites.
Yeah,
he's fishing the EQs.
Yeah.
When he's traveling around, he schedules around tournaments to take clients fishing. They call it the I forget, it's called like the bass fishing experience with Destin the Marion, and they take their clients out, and he, in his rat boat, and he takes them fishing and all that stuff. So he made himself marketable outside of just being able to fish.
Yep. I think another
telemarketer.
Another telemarketer with some spam calling going on here.
That was a telemarketer there.
100%.
Was it? You should have answered it. We could have dialed them into the show.
Yeah.
Hello.
But yeah, I mean, going back to it, you kind of hit it. Like, don't ask the company to do something for you. Provide the company something. Yeah,
it's an instant turnoff, honestly. And we get so many.
I'm sure
like, hey, I'm in a bass club. I love your stuff. You should give it to me. And I'm like, so
no successful business has ever given all their inventory away.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Believe it or not, we're here to make money and sell stuff.
Yeah, and I think
if you can help us do that, I've got a bomb squad guy that we signed up this past year, and there was an account in New York that I've known forever, and I wasn't able to get in there with Missile just yet. Well, this dude's a local hammer. Rich Ortiz is who it is.
Oh yeah, I know Rich well.
And I mean, he caught like a 7 and an 8 pound smallmouth, like back to back recently. But anyway, he's good friends with Fish 307. So his local store, and so they wanted to pick up everything that Rich uses. And so the opening order for Fish 307 was a really, really good size order. And I'm like, Rich, dude, you're killing it. Like this is how you do that. Like you got Missile into a store that I wasn't able to get us into. And it took us sponsoring Rich, or taking a chance on Rich per se. And now he is becoming more and more irreplaceable.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's I'll put it this way too. Fish what you like, right? So like if you like Cashin rods or Leviathan rods or Strike King or Yamamoto or Missile or whatever, fish what you like and start, talking about it, posting about it, whatever, and tag everybody, and then they'll notice that. But if you call somebody up and say, hey, need to know who to talk to, I've got a dealer wants to place an order for a bunch of your stuff, you go right to the head of the line.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy how that works.
Yeah, it is. And that's lost on a lot of people, that if you provide something to the company beforehand, if you come to them with an opportunity, there's likely to be an opportunity for you following that up.
Sure.
It's not going to go unnoticed.
No, my next question is, well, who else buddy? Like, let's go.
So you came into Missile, you said 2018.
Yes.
So before the COVID fiasco.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So
what was that like? Go ahead. Sorry.
To wrap up the gambler deal. So I was there for 14 years and basically kind of hit the ceiling. I had a wife and 2 girls, and needed a little more, and then was kind of, hanging out, waiting for something else to come along. Ran into John at a show, and Julie, who was our office manager. Julie happened to let me know that John was looking for a sales guy, but don't say anything. And I'm like, well, I already texted him, told him I'd take it, And I've known John for 25 years. Like his first year on tour, we met on Okeechobee, and he would come down every year and pre-fish with me back when you could do that. And so, I mean, like I said, John and I was 14, maybe 13, 14 when John and I met.
Wow.
And he was right out of college. So
yeah, he had just started down the pro trail and doing all that.
So in 18, John's like, man, we hadn't even talked money yet. I'm like, I don't care. Like, I'm your guy.
Yeah.
So we got all that worked out, and he takes good care of me, and hadn't looked back.
No, that's awesome. And you definitely fit the mold of Missile, and the crew that they've built is a ton of fun, and you feel like family and a friend anytime you get around everybody. So
100%.
It's awesome.
It's all I'm all about us making everything in the US, and that's not going to change. I mean, John and I agree on basically every aspect of Missile. Like the core values, how we do things. I can't tell you that he and I have ever had a disagreement or an argument.
Yeah.
When he hired me, I'm like, man, is there any direction, anything you want me to, he's like, dude, I hired the best sales guy I know. Go do sales shit. Okay. So there's zero micromanagement, which is 1,000 times more motivating.
Oh yeah.
Versus the opposite. And it's like, it's liberating almost, So, I mean, the world is your oyster, I guess,
Yeah. I knew he was going to say that.
That's huge. Like, I have some direct reports, and I've had them in the past, and I've had good managers and leaders like that I get hired, and you ask them, what direction do I have? And it's, I hired you for a reason.
Yeah.
You know what to do. Go do what I hired you to do.
Yeah.
And when you get that, oh man, I've only had one job where I was like micromanaging. I didn't even make it 6 months, and I quit. Dude. I was like, I can't do this.
That's why. Go ahead.
No, I mean, you're looking for buckshot to eat, with all the micromanaging.
Depending on what position you get into a company with, like I was just telling one of my guys at work this today, I was like, don't ever ask if you're in charge of something, don't go asking people what you need to do. Like, because
Correct.
to me, that's like saying I'm not competent or confident in what I need to do. So I need to, well, you know what? Then you're not fit for the position. We need somebody that is going to spearhead this thing and take it in a direction based off our core values and what we believe in. And if you're just doing that, then you're going to be fine. The question I wanted to ask you, though, is when you walk into the realm of sales, whether or not you're a new guy, or say you've been in sales for some time, or you walk into a new company, is it overwhelming trying to learn the inside of the outdoor space, the outdoor industry, the fishing industry? Is it overwhelming at all?
So it wasn't at Missile, because I already had all the relationships.
Yeah.
And this is going back 20 plus years now. So, I mean, it was overwhelming when I was 21 years old. 20. He hired me when I was 20. He gave me a list of the current accounts, and I called them all and introduced myself. And you're just kind of learning, what they carry and who's who and who handles the buying and whatnot. And developing a rapport with them. And then there comes the cold calling, right? So at Gambler, we would buy, and this goes back to him being in the computer industry, you could buy leads lists, right? And so I would get a printout of 1,000 tackle shops across the country, break it down by state, and I would spend the majority of my day cold calling, which absolutely sucks. But and you get hung up on a lot, telemarketing. But you do that for a while, and then you get to know a lot of these guys, and then I'm making, at Gambler, they wanted us to make 80 to 100 calls a day.
Oof.
Yeah. And but doing that, like I'd be working a show somewhere and hear a guy's voice, and I'm like, oh crap, that's Brad from JBC Outfitters, And like you pay your dues and you're in the trenches for so long, and then now Brad walks in and he looks for the missile booth. Or I could holler at Brad from across the room and say something smart aleck, and then he'll come over and like, hey, sit down, let's write an order. But you can do that to somebody after knowing them for 20 years, Flippers, bait, and tackle. This is one of my best stories to tell, in my opinion. Flipper had owned a tackle shop in Middle Tennessee on Old Hickory Lake for 40 years. And side note, that's who's buying this boat that I'm sitting in this year.
Nice.
We get along well. So I called Flipper the first time. He said, I'm not interested. Hung up. Called him back a second time. He's like, dude, what don't you understand? Like, I can't sell Gambler around here. Hung up. Third time, he's like, what do you want? And I'm like, man, just hear me out. I don't have time. Call me back next week. Called him back next week. He's like, all right, like what can I do? How do you stop calling me? And now I don't necessarily advise doing this, but this is just a story. So at the time, I'm like, man, what do you got in there that's not moving for you? And he says, excuse me? I'm like, well, what brands do you have that you can't sell? He's like, well, I got a bunch of go-to baits, or whatever it was at the time. I'm like, how many bags you got? He's like, 400. I'm like, I'll give you a $2 a bag credit. You can throw them in the trash, and I'll give you an $800 credit towards a bunch of the stuff I'm selling. And he's like, you got a deal. And I think at the time I had him box it up and send it to me, and we blew it out on eBay. Yeah, but, anyway, it got our foot in the door. And then fast forward a couple years, and he carried everything we made. Now, when I left Gambler and went to Missile, he carried everything Missile made. And he was a lot of the reason why I ended up moving to Middle Tennessee, because I was up here running tournaments with him, for so many years.
So he followed the person and not the product.
Exactly. 100%.
Because of the relationship.
He and I had a relationship. And to this day, if we talk, like, love you, dude, when we hang up,
Yeah.
Like, it's cool. So he called me this past year and he's like, hey, when you order your new boat, I'll pick my colors. I'm like, you can do that. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, that's, and you don't get that. You don't get that with every company. You don't get that with everything. And that's one of the things when you meet the guys from Missile, if you go to a retail show or a show and you meet John, you can immediately feel that from those folks. John's the same way, super welcoming. You can tell he's genuine, just one of the best people I've met, and it trickles down through his company. So it's no,
even Alex.
Well, he's Alex,
Yeah, but
we'll see how his head gets now with that opens win.
I mean,
dude,
granted,
they had to get a bigger bay door.
Yeah. I mean, granted, John doesn't want to be, working the booth. He wants to be fishing the event, but it speaks volumes.
John to fish the classic instead of working.
But it speaks volumes when he is down there at that booth. He doesn't have to be, right?
Dude, if he's not fishing, he's working. Like, he's in the office Monday morning before anybody else, and he leaves in the afternoon and he's home with the family. I mean, that's right. And if he's in town, he's there 5 days a week. He's got, his work ethic is awesome. And he definitely leads by example, which is great too.
That's good. So 20 years ago until, and fast forward to now, with social media and the ability to really you know, back in the day, you could cold call somebody. It'd be like a corded phone or maybe the first few cordless phones or whatever.
Yeah.
But now you can actually do some research on the person that you're getting ready to call. You can actually find, I mean, we do it all the time, you know, nothing on the government side, but like we do it all the time, right? we do a profile. We build a profile on somebody and it's like, okay, this is what they're interested in. This is the terminology they use. This is the language they speak. Like, this is exactly how we're going to get after, you know, getting in touch with this person. Has it made it easier or more challenging now to try to pick up new clients?
No, it's far easier, you know. So if I've got a bomb squad guy or something, it's like, man, I was in this tackle shop. Like, I just need them to tell me the name of the shop, you know, and I could pull up. I'm really good at Google, really good at Facebook, and pulling up the information. I can get the guy's name, the address, the phone number, all that stuff. I just need to know that they exist.
Yeah.
And then call them and you know, that's where we utilize our bomb squad, or try to, is like, hey, we had our guy in there. He sent me pictures of the missile you've got. Just wanted to thank you for being a customer and see if there's anything we could do better, or make sure you've got everything you need, or at the very least, let me set you up on our, you know, in my deal. That way I'm emailing you the newest of the new the day it comes out. Whether they're ordering through distribution or they're ordering through me direct, you know, I just like to have a relationship with as many dealers as I can, you know?
Yep. So for anybody watching or listening, I think you're hearing an overwhelming thing here, and it's relationship.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And that's where a lot of different companies drop the ball. Is they in the fishing industry, they don't fish.
Yes.
You have zero in common with fishermen if you don't fish.
Yep.
And I had taken a little break from fishing in between Gambler and Missile, and John's like, man, you realize you need to fish. And I'm like, well, darn it, say it ain't so. But it's cool because I was able to go to the wife, be like, well, you know, John, he says I have to fish. And he wants me to keep up on all the newest, you know, baits and rods and reels. You know, I got to be able to relate to my customers and know what I'm talking about, because they're going to see right through me if they don't.
She said, well, is John going to buy your boat?
Well, no, that's a different story. So that took some finesse. So it's like a joke now because she realized I was full of shit. But so the boat deal is pretty funny. I called a buddy of mine who's a boat dealer and a tackle shop, and I'm like, man, I said I want to buy a boat. Just keep an eye out for a good used, you know, Express or G3, or, you know, preferably a Skeeter, but something I can finance, right? Which I was going to cross that bridge with her later. And he's like, all right, cool. Well, he called me back 3 weeks later and he's like, welcome to Team Skeeter. I'm like, what the heck does that mean? And he's like, memo deal, pro staff. And I'm like, yeah, well, what, you know, he's like, well, they give you the boat for 12 months, delayed note, and then you owe them the price of the boat. And I'm like, what? No, I can't. No, like, she will shoot me. I will be living in that boat. I can't take that chance. You know, he's like, I already told him you'd take it. She's waiting on your call, you know? So I call Skeeter and talk to him, and I'm like, all right. So I had to sell my wife on it. Like, no, it's fine. You know, like it's a really good deal on the boat. It's nothing out of pocket. And, I kid you not, a guy called me because of Flipper. Some dude walked into Flippers up here and he's like, I'm going to buy a new nitro. And he's like, that's not how this works. He's like, for the money you're going to pay for a brand new one, you could buy this guy's top of the line Skeeter. And so the guy called me and he's like, hey, I want to buy your boat 45 days after I got it. And I'm like, man, you could do that.
In 11 months.
I got to keep it for 11 more months. He's like, that's fine. I can bring you a deposit next week. I'm like, okay. You know, so the first one was gone. So I was able to be like, see, I told you, you know, it worked out. So the boat deal's been awesome, but Skeeter and through my dealer, they wanted the Missile director of sales and a Skeeter.
Mm-hmm.
Those doors don't open with other companies, you know.
Right.
And they realized that I could put a lot of qualified buyer butts in this seat.
Yeah.
And have been able to sell a lot of boats for them. And then with the social media reach that we have at Missile and different opportunities. I mean, hell, if you look at the Cash and Rods catalog this year, there's me and the Skeeter boat that I had that year in the catalog.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it works out. It's been awesome. You know?
So the salesman sold you and you had to sell it to your wife.
Yeah.
You see how
married?
that works? Oh, I'm married to my high school sweetheart, man. So
okay, well, you know.
Yeah, you know, but it's not much of a negotiation anymore.
That's right.
But I'll tell you what, though, I might have to take you up. You're kind of selling me because Skeeter was our very first bass boat in our family. So I'll have to hit you up because I'm looking here soon after I retire in a couple years to maybe get myself back in a Skeeter or something like that. So, well, that's for after the show. But so, yeah, I mean, but that's all relationships, you know, from flippers and working Missile and doing all this stuff. And, you know, it's all about creating that network. You know, sometimes a small circle of friends goes a long way. And
so at Missile, we call it the Homeboy Shopping Network. And Ish is a big part of it. Ike, you know, there's all kinds of dudes that have become part of the Homeboy Shopping Network.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a real thing.
What do you think the most challenging thing is now for you being so senior and seasoned in the industry? What do you find the most challenging thing is?
I mean, the first thing that pops in my mind is just growing and reaching that next level.
Yeah.
You don't ever want to get stagnant. You're never content, or you shouldn't be as a sales guy. And trying to get Missile to that next step. You know, and it takes everybody's involvement. Like Alex is absolutely necessary as an inventory specialist. You know, it takes the pro staff, it takes the bomb squad, it takes marketing, Miles, you know, the creative content director, and sales all working as a team to get it to that next level. I can't do it by myself. You got to have pull through. Like I could open up a new dealer with a $5,000 order. If people don't walk through the door looking for it, we failed somewhere.
Yep.
You know, and if that guy has a tough time reordering, we failed. So, I mean, our goal here, you know, in the team's effort is to keep all those deals working and growing and moving forward and really picking up the ball where other people drop it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like you said, it's from the top to bottom, because when you look at John, you know, when he goes and travels for a tournament, or even when he went down to pick up his new boat last year and things like that, he hits dealers that carry
he's popping in tackle shops. Yeah.
And he's doing social media posts, and he's making sure that he lets folks know that they have everything we make, or if they don't have it, let them know and they can get it. And you see Alex doing stuff like that. I see you posting like on your personals along with Missile. So that's a huge, like you said, to grow, it takes everybody doing that, because you can sell to every dealer in the country, but if they're not selling it, they're not going to order.
That's right.
Yeah.
How critical from the business perspective, how critical is innovation for making sure you're on top of or the leading edge in the industry?
Depends who you are, I guess. We like to be innovative. There's other companies that like to knock stuff off. Just throwing it out there. But we would rather put it this way. We don't make a Cinco.
Right.
They refer to all stick baits as Cincos.
It's Cincos.
Cincos,
Yep.
Who sells the most Cincos?
Yamamoto.
Gary Yamamoto. Who's always going to sell the most Cincos?
Gary Yamamoto.
Who sells the most beavers?
Missile.
Reaction Innovation.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
I didn't even know.
Sweet Beaver.
I didn't even know they were in business anymore.
Oh, yeah.
They are. They are. Josh Heron's a good buddy of mine, but
Oh.
and he also has Tato Designs, just makes a hell of a swim bait.
I don't know. I throw D-bombs.
Tato doesn't make
Well, and so the Beaver and the D-bomb, two totally different baits, two totally different actions. But probably a poor example. So if you look at a chatterbait, right? Who sells the most chatterbaits?
Z-Man.
Z-Man. In the pattern here is it's the innovators of this stuff.
Yeah.
They're filling a hole in the market when they come out with that. So it pays in the long run to be innovative. And it's also a lot tougher to figure out, what's going to be the next hot thing. You know, now we didn't come out with the first Ned bait, that was the TRD, but the Ned bomb was a totally different action to that bait. So there's innovation within a category. We could have just knocked off the TRD. I mean, or other companies just took their Senko mold and put a gate in it. And, did that. And
I was going to say the Senko is a great example because you guys have the 48, which is your stick style bait.
Yes.
And Trey and I were just talking about it the other day, and it's like if I'm just out fishing for fun, I'm going to throw pretty much whatever.
Yeah, junk baits.
But when I get into a tournament, I'm going to have a 48 every single time because I have confidence in that bait catching better fish. And it's a little bit different action. Everything's a little bit different. It's a different shape.
They don't see as many of them.
Yeah, it's not thrown as much. And I think, and you see it, the magic worm, I think is another great example. Robo worm has theirs, but the magic worm is different. It's got a different shape, a little bit different action.
But in lieu of us knocking off the robo worm, and nobody is doing that in this industry, why not partner with robo worm? Who makes the best robo worm?
You saw it with that. You saw it with the spunk shad.
And the spunk shad, I mean, Scott Shawwecker's a friend of ours, Galen. We licensed the mold from them. And so we've got Missile's spunk shad. And we're coming out with a 3.5 inch size here soon, and along with a couple new colors as well across all the sizes. But we're not going to knock our buddy off.
Right.
I mean, we could have called it the funk shad and
I still like
changed
that
it 10%, but that would have been a dick move. And so, Scott makes a good royalty off of them, and we're putting them everywhere we can, and it's an honorable deal, and everybody wins. Hog Farmer wins, we win. Robo is very happy, and we're very happy with the magic worms. It's they've both been home runs.
So is we hit innovation just from, I mean, and you don't have to go into grave detail or any specifics, but the industry is awesome. But there's some ugly in the industry too, isn't there?
Oh yeah, 100%. The coolest video that I saw come out of ICAST lately, and I believe it was 2 years ago, it was Ben at the hookup tackle. Him and Jeffrey walked around the show and blatantly called out all the knockoffs.
I remember that.
It was the realest, most true video to come out of ICAST in years. And it's sad that all these other companies would do that. I saw some new ones today. Like if you check Bass Blaster today, there's front and center. There's a knockoff of the spunk shad.
Yep, I saw that.
By a big company, and it's not the look we're going for. There's a lot of cutthroat stuff here and there. I mean, we tend to avoid a lot of that stuff, or hell, all of it at Missile. We don't get bogged down in the drama. We don't, and we're friends with everybody in the industry. Like, we don't look at, Josh at Reaction Innovations as a cutthroat competitor.
Right.
He's a friend of mine. And part of what we're good at Missile is, say a new dealer calls us, and like there's no website you can go to that tells you who to buy things from, how to buy them at wholesale.
Right. There's not.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So they get a hold of me. Well, between John and myself, we know most everybody, and I want to be that guy's first call because I can get him hooked up with all the distributors that he needs to get hooked up with. I can get him hooked up with all the manufacturers direct that he needs to get hooked up with. And that guy had to make one call. And then I'll reach out to Megabass for you. I'll get him to call you. I'll reach out to Cashin. Ask Jason Holland. You know what I mean? Like Jason and I talk all the time.
Yep.
And I'm sending him leads or vice versa or whatever. And it helps, and then these companies will reciprocate the favor. But that dealer, I want to be his first call anytime he needs anything. So, if he calls me looking for sweet beavers or, Trixie sharks, or I don't even know if they still make that. But, whatever.
Jitterbugs.
Yeah. Jitterbugs. I can get him jitterbugs. So he calls me and we make it happen. But that way I don't have to sell that guy anything anymore. I
think that's a great example. We talk about this all the time. People they say they want to grow the industry until it's time to grow the industry. That's basically something that Pete coined. And, but that is a perfect example of how businesses can grow the industry without cutting the throat of another business.
Yeah, Byron and Missile, you guys walk that, and John associates himself, which in turn is going to align Missile with companies that are the same way. When you look at Spro, that's a huge look at. They wanted to come out with a glide bait instead of knocking off like so many other companies have. They partnered with one of the biggest in the industry with KGB.
Yeah,
they came out with their Shad 180, and they threw credit back to the original maker. They could have, like you said, changed it 10% and thrown their own name on it and been down the road with it. But that's not the way they do business. It's not the way John's not going to align with a company that in turn comes back to you. And like Trey just said, I say it all the time. Everybody in this industry, you look at social media posts from anglers, from other companies, they all talk about growing the industry and getting new people in until it's time to actually do that. And then they don't want to give any information about anything.
Yeah.
What is the best advice? Because you're so, like it's a piece of your fabric now, like this industry. When a new person, say a young small business owner, is trying to get into it, I'm not one of them. I still have a couple years before I retire.
And then hooked up.
Hey, you know what? I can sell a ketchup popsicle to a woman in a white dress, man. You know what I'm saying? But here's the deal.
Show me.
I'll show you with all the taxpayer dollars I spent of yours. But, no, I'm
good one.
He's like, I'm never hiring you. But no, seriously. So for somebody trying to get into the industry, somebody they got to find their niche. What is the worst company that could what is the worst product somebody could try to get into the industry with?
You're talking like toughest to try to sell?
Yeah, toughest product ever.
Phrase that different. Yeah. The toughest product in the fishing industry to sell?
To sell.
It would probably be a startup bait company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or a startup rod company.
Yep.
Okay.
Or maybe even line. I would say line. So I
would think line would be tough.
I would say line. So if you're brand new, right? Like you're whoever, and you want to start a line company or even there's plenty of garage bait makers now that get a little decent local following because they give away half everything they produce.
Mm-hmm.
But a line deal to me would probably be the toughest because that's like your link.
Yep.
If the line fails and you got to switch people away from their confidence line.
Sure.
It's not like tying on a bait or trying a new hook and anybody's tungsten will do tungsten things.
Yep.
But line, and I know my experience, like I was fishing a bigger name line. You could probably guess what it was. I had it break. I switched. I don't trust it.
Yeah.
Shame on me. I probably just got a bad spool, but in my mind, I'm not losing a $400 swim bait again.
Nope. I'm with you. And I had the same issue with, I'm pretty sure probably the same line. And
and
I've
it works
switched.
great for a lot of other people, but
Yeah.
I don't trust it. And
I tell
had
everybody
a problem with Invisex, and they don't pay me to say that.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I mean, I would think breaking into the industry as a new startup line company would probably be the toughest if I had to guess.
That'd be a tough
that's
sale.
interesting. I didn't expect that answer. I thought you were going to say like a new crankbait or
But
a
I mean, like
jigs.
6 Cents is a relatively new company,
Yeah.
and they're absolutely killing it.
Yeah, they are.
I
Yep.
mean, just knocking them down left and right.
Mhm.
Guggen flash in the pan, but they killed it.
They did. Yeah.
And now they're not.
Nope.
And I'm not saying that maliciously. It was my opinion was they were very, very social media influencer heavy, and when those guys decided to go a different direction, they took their fan base with them.
Yeah, we've talked about it off camera because we try not to get too much drama, and you know how people are. But that was exactly it. They had that huge social media push, and as guys started to pull away and do different things, you kind of saw that flat, like you said, the flash in the pan. With 6 Cents, they came in heavy in social media, but they've maintained their folks.
But they've maintained it. They've done it a little different than Guggen. And I'm not talking trash about Guggen
no,
or any of that. I'm just observing things from an industry perspective. But I know it was different. It kind of took the industry by storm the way they did it. And it was different, and it worked really, really well. And then it disappeared. 6 Cents has done it different, and they're still going strong. I mean, they're cranking out numbers.
Yeah, they are. I mean, like full disclosure, man, I'm a huge I'm not in the industry other than podcasting and stuff, but I love some of the 6 Cents products. They catch fish for me. And I use them. I also
you'll try a brand new
anything.
6 Cents crankbait.
Yep.
Right. I mean, Bandit crankbaits, one of the greats before they were bought out. That was, a new crankbait at one time. I mean, anything, Pose, you name it. Bomber, anything was a new crankbait. So, I mean, it's probably easier to bring out a new bait.
Yeah,
I agree.
Especially a hard bait.
Yeah.
Because it takes a little more money to do all that to get started up.
Yeah.
And, you would assume it's going to be a little more refined than a plastic that you could pour in your garage. You can't make a lot of crankbaits in your garage unless they're by wood, but even then they have a cult following.
Yep.
Yeah. They do.
You know what I mean?
They do. Yo, they
and
do.
Then like the swim baits, like these guys, like, I'm going to make a glide bait. Well, HPH, you can't get them. Hinkle shads, you can't get them. They're still made in that dude's garage.
Yep.
And they make a comfortable living and the swim bait industry is totally different.
It's a wild industry
than the traditional fishing industry, which I've been a part of for so long. So I've learned the swim bait deal, and it blows my mind how these guys are like, we're not accepting dealers. It's like, or DRT only wants 6 dealers in the US. It's like, dude, I could help get you in 15 new stores, but they don't want it.
Do you think that's something that a lot of small business owners fail to do though, is not manage? They over expect, like, let me think of how to say this. They want to grow too fast, right? And they don't have the ability to pump out the volume. They don't understand how to manage staff. They don't understand how, like, there's so many numbers involved in like growing a business. The best thing they could do is almost sell out if they don't want to be that big. And I think that swim bait deal you're talking about is they're just like, dude, we're comfortable where we're at. Like, this is the volume we want to pump out. And we know that at any time we could call somebody and they would explode. Right.
Yeah. So Mike Bucca of Bullshed, he's a friend of mine. And he was kind of the first to bring his baits to the mainstream, right? Like, he worked his ass off cranking out baits in his shop to sell to dealers, and took that route where a lot of these guys, they're not big enough to scale up to sell to dealers,
Right.
or they could only. And I'm not knocking them. I mean, you are one person, and you might make the best bait in the world, like Clutch, right?
Yep.
Newer swim bait company. Josh Plaidies is a good friend of mine, and John and I have both, we do everything we can to help him. He came out with the OG, and then he got with Justin Kimmel and created the Darter, which has got a lot of tournament success here lately.
Oh yeah.
And then he's got the Boss. But Josh he's back there just cranking out baits, and he's willing to open up a new dealer. He'll sell to McKee. He'll sell to, Baitworks. He'll sell to, Tackle Warehouse. But he can't pick up any new dealers, other than the 5 or 6 until he gets that Tackle Warehouse order done,
Right.
But that's good on him. He's trying not to overextend himself, and
That's good.
you can grow little by little, as long as you can manage it. And he's got guys helping him now, and it's opening up new doors. That's what holds a lot of these guys back is, one, you can't find good help. And I'm not saying this about Clutch, but other companies that I know, they can't find good help or reliable help, or they just don't care to grow it any bigger.
That's true. Yeah.
It's
Scaling a business in moderation is pretty important. And it's not like there aren't other factors like the economy itself, the logistics, all of those things, like they play a huge role. The last question, I know I asked him a bunch of questions.
No, you're good, man.
What's missing, and from your professional opinion, what is missing in it? So you got the conventional fishing industry, which you said, this is the way I would phrase it, the conventional, which is pretty much everything. And then the unconventional, which is like the swim bait cult and some of those other things. But what in your, what in your opinion, what is something that we don't have enough of, or that is maybe missing in the industry?
It'll sound like a broken record, but relationships. Like, I think everybody would do better, and the industry would be better as a whole if they focused on building good relationships and helping everybody out. You know what I mean? There's a lot of corporate coming in. You know what I mean? Although some of that might not be working out too well. I don't know what it's mean. The main thing that it's missing, I guess, would be the relationship aspect of it.
I think you nailed it with that, because you look at, when I think about, I've been around for a little bit now, and I'm pretty open. I talk to everybody. When I think about the companies that the stuff that I use and that I'll tag and that I will tell about other people, they're companies that take the time to build that relationship. Like Missile.
And
I didn't even
by
know
relationship, it may not even be between the company and the dealer. It could be between the company and the consumer.
100%.
Or just be accessible, right?
Yep.
Like John Crews, anybody, I'm not going to list the number, but anybody could call the Missile office and talk to John Crews. He is one of the most accessible business owners and professional fishermen that I've ever met, and I've been around him my whole life. And and take the time to respond to an email. Even if it's them asking for free shit for their college tournament, at least send them a reply. You know what I mean? Yeah. Or if, like somebody's managing the Instagram messages, or a personal note enclosed in the order, or you name it. To me, it's those little things that are kind of missing that we try to be good at, that could help the industry overall.
Those are 100% the things consumers notice, because I notice it. I try to spread around. I order for Missile, I order direct from you guys, but other companies, if I'm ordering stuff, I'll go. I try to use like Omnia or Baitworks, or try to use different companies. Yeah. The ones you go back to are the ones that have those. Like Omnia, when I first ordered from them, was a handwritten note in every single order. Now you don't get that, but they stick a bag of beef jerky in there with your order now.
Biz
Oh,
Baits
do they?
does it?
Yeah, you get a whole bag of beef jerky now. They used to just give you one Jack Links. I got a whole bag in my last order. Maybe I
Dude,
spent
I might,
too much money. I don't know.
I might place an Omni order tonight.
That's right. But Bait WRX sends you, a little handwritten note, thanks for your order, and they throw a couple decals in there or whatever. But those are the kind of things that consumers notice. And what I was going to say is, like, when I first, I grew up in the hunting industry and I did a lot of stuff there. And then I got kind of out of the sports, and then I got back into fishing, and started going to some shows. And the first time I met you, they were like, introduced me to you, and it was like I'd known you forever. Instantly, you made me feel welcome. We talked. There was some ball busting. You just felt like, okay, these are my people. John, I think it was the second time I ever met John Crews. He didn't know me from Adam, but I was having issues with a truck. I put a ton of miles on my truck because of my job. And we were at a show and I was having an issue, and I was sitting there and you could tell I was stressed, and he was like, "What's up, man?" And I was like, "I'm just having truck problems. I probably need to start shopping. What's your number?" And he texted me his guy that he deals with for Toyota and was like, "Tell him I sent you." I didn't know John from anybody.
Yeah.
But those are the kind of, that's how you build those relationships.
Those are the kind of reviews that come out with these YouTubers that do reviews on bass boats, that do reviews on products and stuff like that. They talk about those things. I can't remember the guy who does it, but he has a YouTube channel that legitimately breaks down every bass boat by price and by being able to get a hold of the dealer.
His name's Ken. He's from Texas. Older guy, white hair.
Yeah.
Yep.
Goatee.
Yep, that's right. And
Lake Fork guy. He's from Ken. He's around. His name's Ken. He's from around Lake Fork.
What is it? Overpriced or undervalued? Like, he does that on those boats. Yeah. I don't know the name. I'll have to pull. I can't remember the name. But anyways,
I know the guy you're talking about.
But the story of that is he's like Team Marine. Is Team Marine? I don't know. Anyways, he talks about that. He's like, when I call a boat manufacturer and I get a recording, a robot talking, or I call another boat manufacturer and I literally get the CEO of the company who's out there like putting in the work to build that boat. Like, I know instantly what kind of company I'm going to be dealing with. And dude, I ordered some Biz Baits the other day and got a handwritten note in there. And I was like, man, that's super cool. And I even said something to the guys at the Classic when I ran into them, and I was like, they don't know me and I don't know them, but I appreciated that stuff. So, those little things go a long way. And that's what you guys are talking about with those relationships. That's how you grow the industry. And you're right. So, and
I'll be like Spro, for instance. I had an issue with the first run of their flapping frogs. They had an issue with the weights. They were falling out, and I was smashing fish on them, but the weights were falling out. It was kind of a pain because then you got to finagle some lead wire in there to make sure it stays the right way. And but I emailed them, and I never expected. I was like, I probably won't hear anything back, but I want to just make them aware. Most of the time, if I have an issue with a bait, I don't want anything. Like, I'm not asking for you to replace it. I want to make sure you're aware. Hey, you got an issue here. You might want to fix it. So I just said, hey, I just wanted to let you all know these weights were falling out, blah, blah, blah. It was like 25 minutes. They emailed me. Hey, yep, we know there's an issue. Here, send me this address, and we'll send you 2 for every one you send to us. And I was like, well, I'm not going to send them back because these ones are catching fish, and you know how that is with a bait. Like, it's something different. Buy some more. Like, I'll just buy some more. I don't want to get rid of these ones, but you don't get that with everybody. Like, there's other companies you might reach out to, and you're not going to hear back from them, and you're not going to have a relationship with them, or you're going to get some drone in India on the phone, or somewhere that barely speaks English, and they're trying to walk you through, and they don't necessarily care about your problem, and I really like that the whole theme that we've got to has been about relationships, because building a relationship is how you get into the industry. Building relationships is how you grow in the industry. And those relationships are how we're going to continue to grow the industry.
So for you, for y'all listening and watching, like that's the theme. And, go have a conversation with somebody and get out from behind your phone. Anybody can text or email. Not all emails are created equal, Pete.
Yep.
But anybody can text or email or write a review or write a comment. But it takes a special kind of person to just have a conversation like we're having right now, you know, and we've all met before. We've all seen each other at the Classic and stuff like that. But if I didn't know you, I would have no issues coming up and having a conversation with you, shaking your hand and being like, hey, my name's Trey. Appreciate you taking a few minutes to hear me out on this. Right. And this is why this matters to you. That's a skill that it scares me, but you know, we're losing a lot of that. So
it's dying. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And, but yeah, man, the last question I had for you is if you were to go back in time, like getting into the industry, what would be something you would have done differently, if anything?
So this one time in Vegas.
It stays in Vegas. Disregard.
Okay. All right. That is a true story.
That's an old iCast story, probably.
We'll stop recording.
Yeah, no, it was.
Talk about that.
Yeah. So, man, I don't. I mean, everybody makes mistakes as they're young and green and coming up, but I don't. You learn from them, right?
Sure.
So I can't say I would change the mistakes I made.
Yep.
Because I feel like you learn from it. It makes you better at what you're doing or makes you a better person.
Yeah.
I honestly should have saved more of my money.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Being young and you know, working at Gambler early on, I was making pretty good money for, you know, early 20s and living at home still.
Yeah.
And spent every damn dime of it.
Yeah.
So, you know, I would have been hindsight. I'll put it back on me. I should have been a little smarter with my money back then. Took me a while, but I'm getting there. You know, and as a sales profession, a lot of times you don't have the 401k. You don't have the insurance. You're paying that out of pocket.
Yeah.
You know, and so like investing earlier on would have been good. You know, just being wiser with what I had made. But I mean, that's more personal than industry.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I can't. I mean, I've screwed plenty of stuff up.
But that's not always a bad thing.
But you know, you learn from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
my advice to people is, well, first of all, you don't know if it's going to be a mistake until you make the choice.
correct.
Right?
Don't be afraid to take the chance.
Exactly.
Right, unless you're just telling somebody off. That's probably
but take some calculated risk and don't be afraid to get hit in the face and bounce back from that, because that's the resiliency. They can't teach that in school. That's taught in life. That is literally on the job training, on the life training, whatever. Like, take some calculated risk, and especially if you have some goals. And I know we've talked about it before. There's been some negatives out there, like in the fishing industry. Like, no one is a victim of anything except for your inability to make some decisions that are going to hopefully work out favorably. And if they don't, then just don't make the same one over and over again. Take some risk and get yourself out there, put yourself out there, develop those relationships. Just because you don't come from a really well-off family doesn't mean that you can't be successful.
Yep.
No doubt.
No doubt. We're seeing a lot of that we're seeing some of that on social media right now. And just for those, our fans and our listeners and stuff like that, like anybody can try to go after that goal. It doesn't mean it's going to work out, but you'd be ashamed to not try it. You know what I mean? Sure.
No, if there's something you want to do or something you're passionate about, I mean, go for it. Yeah. You know, I mean, and don't take no for an answer.
You didn't,
right? So call it being hard-headed or dumb or whatever, but I didn't like that answer.
Yeah, and he's sitting in my Skeeter.
That's right.
Right, exactly. Actually, no, technically this one's flippers.
Yeah, that's flippers.
And I believe the next one's sold, but my 2025 should be yours.
Well, I'll tell you what, that's the year I retire. So, you know, I appreciate the retirement gift, my man.
Gift. He said gift. Gift. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the shipping and handling might cost you.
Yeah,
That's
It's
fine.
gonna be pricey.
I handle shipping fine.
I think we were gonna talk big baits, but we've been going about an hour and a half, so I think we're gonna have to have Byron back.
Yeah, let's do another
and
episode.
talk about big
Say
baits,
when.
talk about fishing big baits. We get a lot of people asking questions about them and thinking they need to go out and get on those
next time.
rocks.
Next time, no business.
Nope, all fishing.
All fishing.
All
Fishing is business. Business is fishing.
It is.
No, yeah, we want to talk about getting into it and because a lot of folks want to get into it and they don't know where to start. And
Yeah.
you know as well as anybody, you don't need to go out and buy a $500 custom swim bait and all of this. There's ways to get into it,
No,
get a feel
or
for
a
things
skeeter
and
boat,
build up.
or
exactly.
whatever. Dude, I was fishing out of a borrowed John boat in 2018
Yeah.
Yeah.
and still catching giants on swim baits.
Yeah.
But that was around when I first got into it. So and I'll say this before I go, but I fished tournaments all growing up. I mean, the BFLs, Bass Club stuff, anything around Okeechobee. And then when I moved to Tennessee, I was kind of burnt out on the tournament thing. And then I found the big swim bait stuff, and it got me more fired up than ever. Now I'll still flip a D-bomb. I'll still Nico rig a quiver. That was 2 really good shameless plugs.
Awesome.
Magic worm on a drop shot. I'm not above it. I still like to catch fish, and it pains me to zero. And part of the big swim bait thing is knowing when to put that stuff down
Yeah.
and skip a Senko,
Yeah.
which is what we had to do at the last fishing university deal. But, if I had my choice, I'm more content these days fishing where I want to fish, when I want to do it, and throwing what I want to throw. And hopefully they eat it,
That's right.
and it's more fun to me, but it's kind of where I'm at,
Yep.
I don't,
Absolutely.
it's tough for me to justify spending all the money on entry fees to my wife and girls. And then possibly coming home with nothing because I went to a sucky lake at a shitty time of year.
Yep.
Yeah. So
You know what I mean?
Amen.
So all your entry fees go to big baits.
That's right. Yeah, Trey, you're not supposed to say that.
Yeah, she's not going to listen to
Allegedly.
this.
We get our editor to beat that out. Like a swear word.
No, dude. I got nothing to hide.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll get you back on, and we're just going to talk fishing. The business, there's a lot of really good insight in there, and a lot of things that are going to help folks because there's a lot of the questions we get from young guys that we talk to. We have a lot of high school and college anglers that we talk to and stuff, and that's always a topic that comes up. So we'll get you on just to talk fishing. Just wrapping up, plug. We know Missile Baits. You can plug how to get to that, and anybody else you want to throw out there. This is your opportunity to throw those plugs out there. Yeah.
So Missile, we're in all of your finest independent tackle shops and online retailers. If you don't see them where you're shopping, tell them to ask for it, or call me or email me, and I'll get them in there. But so Missile Baits, and we've got our own website, missilebaits.com. And then Skeeter boats. And that's I don't have a lot of sponsors just because I don't want to deal with it. But Missile, Skeeter. I'm a big fan of Leviathan stuff. That's more of a swim bait thing, although they do make really good bass rods.
That's pretty.
Yeah. And but we can talk about all that stuff later. But I'm not really full of shameless plugs. Got a lot of friends in the industry and that make a lot of good baits and rods and whatnot, and do what we can to help them. So
we appreciate you joining us, man. And this is just part 1. Next time it'll be all big bait Byron fishing.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we will get after it. So Pete, you got anything?
No, man, I appreciate you coming on and taking the time. I always look
guys, I'm honored that you would ask me. So I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, it's been a ton of fun. Looking forward to seeing you at some shows. I'm not going to ICAST this year, so you won't see me down there. But yeah, I'm saving my vacation to go fishing instead this year. So
Stained is playing Friday night after ICAST in Orlando.
Oh, are they?
Dude, Aaron Lewis is awesome.
Oh, that's
Byron
got Aaron Lewis into the old big bait game there.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, see, yeah, we can say that for the next one, but
Yeah, we'll save that for the next one.
This year's iCast is going to be a good time.
Yeah. Well, might have to have a change of plans then.
I mean,
He'll be down there.
it's a business expense.
True, you're right.
Chelsea's got to go, right?
Yep, she does. Yep.
That's
I
true.
mean, technically, you could just go for free because
Yeah.
Matt Cashin's going to pay her way, right?
That's right.
Love you, Matt Cashin.
Yeah, man. Good stuff, man.
Yeah, man. So yeah, we'll look forward. We'll get you back on to talk fishing, and appreciate you taking time to share, 20 plus years of industry insight.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
All right, man. Appreciate you, man.
All right.
Big Bait Byron. We'll catch you on the flip.
All right. Appreciate it, guys.
Later.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Oh, God, it's a toad, son. It's a toad, dude.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day.